Dear students, greetings for the day. Today we will study about seams and seam finishes part 2. Seam finishes. Some seams such as plain seam leave raw edges open. After making the seam, the seam edges need to be finished to prevent them from revealing during use, to provide strength to the seam and to improve the appearance of the inside of the garment. The purpose of seam finishing is also to make the seam allowances inconspicuous from the right side in transparent fabrics and to cover the wiry rough edges in stiff fabrics such as organdy. Fabrics such as velvet, jersey, wool, broadcloth etc. do not require finishing, as they do not travel. It is wise to choose the seam finish that suits the texture of the fabric and is made quickly without adding bulk to the fabric. Trimming is the process of cutting away both seam allowances to the same width. Grading is necessary when several layers of fabrics are joined together. This is done by trimming the seam width to different widths. Later they are pressed in a manner in which the widest seam width is on top enclosing the other shorter seam widths. The factors considered for determining the seam finish are the type and weight of fabric, the amount and kind of wear and tear the garment will undergo, and whether or not seams will be conspicuous on right side. Pinked or stitched and pinked finish. This is the quickest method for finishing the raw edges and is least bulky. This method of finishing is suitable for firm fabrics that do not travel easily. After stitching plain seam, trim off about 1/8 inch of the seam allowance using the pinking shears or stitch 0.5 cm from each seam edge. Then trim close to the stitched line with pinking shears and press open or press to one side. Turned and stitched finish. This is an easy method of finishing for light and medium weight fabrics. Turn 0.3 cm from the raw edge and stitch close to the fold. It is suitable for fabrics that are washed frequently and may ravel too much for pinking. This provides neat appearance for unlined jackets. Bound finish. This method is used for heavy, coarse fabrics that fray easily and are too thick to be turned and stitched, such as tweeds, and also for unlined coats and jackets. Stitch bias or straight strip of a thinner fabric on each seam edge. Fold the binding round the edge of the fabric and stitch close to the edge. This is also referred to as seam binding. For finishing seams on thin fabrics, bias binding is attached, keeping both the edges together after pressing them to one side. Ready-made bias or satin seam bindings are easy to apply. 2.4 Zigzag stitching finish. This method is used for heavyweight fabrics that travel quickly, and is suitable for others as well. These diagonal stitches encase the raw edges and prevent fraying. Zigzag near the seam edge but not over it. Press over and trim off the edges closer to the row of zigzag stitches. Use a small zigzag stitch on a fine fabric and a larger stitch on a heavier fabric. It is an ideal seam finish for slightly elastic fabrics such as jersey and such other knitted fabrics. Overcast finish. This method can be used separately on each pressed open seam allowance if the fabric is heavy, or both seam allowances can be pressed together and oversewn as one in thinner fabrics. Depending on the weight of the fabric, make slanting stitches 0.5 cm apart and 0.3 cm in depth. Do not pull the thread too tightly. It produces a flat finish and prevents raveling, and it is especially suitable for arms and waistlines. Loop stitched finish. Like overcasting, this method can be used separately on each seam edges or both seam edges together, and provides a decorative finish using the loop stitch. 2.7 Herringbone stitched finish. This is used together to neaten the raw edges and hold down the turnings of heavy fabrics such as infants' flannel clothing, where seams need to be flat and smooth. Use this stitch separately on pressed open seam edges. Work over the raw edges in such a manner that it does not fray because raw edges are turned inside. Overlock stitched finish. This is the quickest method for finishing the raw edges, especially in commercial places, as it is done with the overlocking machine. It can be used separately on each pressed open seam allowance on heavy fabrics, or both seam allowances can be pressed together and overlocked as one in light to medium weight fabrics. It is mainly used for all straight seams. Hints on stitching and finishing seams. When joining a plain edge to a gathered edge, stitch with the gathered side up. Press open the first seam before it is crossed with the second seam. The bias edge should be on top when it is being attached to a straight edge. While joining two bias edges, stretch the seam slightly while being stitched. After stitching curved seams, clip the seam edges towards stitching in order to make it flat. Seams may sometimes need to be trimmed or graded for reducing the bulk. While pressing, either a plain side join to fuller side or yoke to a gathered section keep the plain always on top. Side seams should be pressed to the back side and center front seams to the right side.